Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kilowatt, a podcast about electric vehicles, renewable energy, autonomous driving, and much, much more. My name is Bodhi, and I am your host. And on this episode, we have some EV and Tesla news. But before we get to that, we need to thank our newest supporter on Acast Plus, and that is Analytical Agnostic. It's really kind of you to support the show. I feel really bad because Acast Plus does not send me an email when somebody supports the show on Acast Plus. I get something from Patreon, but I get nothing from Acast Plus. So I apologize because you've been supporting the show for an entire month and I have not recognized you. So my bad. I'll do a better job at keeping an eye on the Acast Plus feed, but thank you very much for doing that. Okie doke, let's jump into our news. Dodge announced the price of the 2024 Charger EV. So the RT version is going to go for $61,990, and that will have a range of 317 miles. And the Daytona Scat Pack version will be priced at $75,185 and have a range of 260 miles. Both trims do qualify for the $7,500 federal tax credit. This vehicle is built on the STLA large EV platform and is rocking a 400 volt architecture. This might be one of those cars where I go to the dealership and I do a test drive. Looks like the GMC Sierra EV Edition 1 pickup truck will be headed to dealers over the next few weeks. This is according to GM Authority. So the sister truck or cousin truck, whatever you want to call it, the Chevy Silverado EV pickup truck was released earlier this summer. I'm just going to read off the specs of the GMC EV Edition 1, which is a silly name, but I'm just going to read off the specs here. Let's start with towing. It'll tow 10,000 pounds, has a max payload of 1,450 pounds, 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds, 440-mile range. And I'm pretty sure that's the top end of the range because you get a choice between a 170 kilowatt hour battery pack or a 200 kilowatt hour battery pack. I couldn't find what the low end of the range was. So I'm gonna say 440-mile range is a 200 kilowatt hour battery pack, which is not a cheap battery pack. That's pretty expensive. 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds, and the price will be $99,495, which looks like it's down a little bit from what GMC originally said the price was going to be. It's a good looking truck. So now that we've talked a little bit about the GMC Sierra pickup truck, we need to talk about the 2024 Chevy Silverado EV RST. It just got a little bit cheaper to lease this vehicle. And I'm going to be very clear. It is not cheap to lease this vehicle. I'm saying it got a little bit cheaper to lease it. If you're interested in leasing this pickup truck, you'll have an allowance of 10,000 miles a year. It'll be $6,819 due at signing and a $990 lease. So that's $400 cheaper than the prior lease amount. But if you want to buy it, you're looking at $96,495. So it's a little bit cheaper than the GMC EV Edition. Since we're on the topic of leases, let's talk about some other leases that you can get that are actually affordable. First up, we have the 2024 VW ID4 Standard. $3,499 due at signing, 10,000 miles a year, 36-month lease, $219 a month. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. The Hyundai Ioniq 5, 33-month lease, which is a little weird, 33 months, $3,999 down, due at signing, and $209 a month. And then you have the Kia Niro Wind, which is a great car, 24-month lease, $3,099 down, and that'll get you $189 a month. One other thing that Kia is offering is 0% financing for 60 months if you actually want to buy the Kia Niro EV. That might actually be the better deal. Not probably monthly, but better deal long term. Let's see here. We are running through these stories way faster than I thought we would. It sounds like the Lucid Gravity SUV may have both CCS and NACS charge ports. So ex-user Black Model 3, BLK-MDL3, was at an invite-only party for Lucid Motors, and they had said that the vehicle was going to come with 2 charging ports. Both ports are on the driver's side of the vehicle, with the CCS port up front and the NACS port in the rear. So no matter which charging station you pull up to, you would be able to easily charge your vehicle. I'm not sure how I feel about this. I mean, I love the convenience, but it adds cost and complexity to the vehicle. But really, it's probably not that much cost and complexity. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this turns out. I think the Lucid Air Gravity is a cool looking car. Next up, Rivian announced that the charge port for the R2 will be moved to the driver's side rear, which is exactly where it is for the Tesla. So it'll be easier for it to charge on the supercharger network. And honestly, when they were doing the refresh of the R1T and the R1S, I thought that they might do this as well, but they didn't. But I'm glad that they're doing it for the R2, and I'm sure in some future revision of the R1 series, they'll definitely do this as well. All right, let's move on to our final EV news story, which is a nice transition into our Tesla news. Tesla's official NACS page has a new entrance when it comes to which automakers are coming soon to the supercharger network, like which automakers will be able to charge on the supercharger network, and that is Nissan. So right now, Ford and Rivian are currently able to charge on the supercharger network. And then coming soon, they have listed Nissan, which is a new listing. Then you have GM, Volvo, Polestar, and Mercedes-Benz. And let me be the first to say that I'm looking forward to charging up next to a Nissan Ariya. I think those are cool looking cars. All right, everybody, that is it for our EV news. I do want to let you know that there is a way for you to support the show if you're interested. You can go to patreon.com/kilowatt or supportkilowatt.com. If you don't like Patreon, you can always support us on Acast Plus, and that link is in the show notes. Now, I do need to let you know, and you're probably going to hear a lot of creators talking about this. Apple's App Store has told Patreon, hey, you need to let people subscribe to Patreons through the iOS app. And what that means is if you subscribe to this show through the iOS app, and I don't have a problem if you do, it's going to cost you an additional 30% more because Apple charges 30%. And I only ask for $1. By the time Apple takes 30% and Patreon takes their 12 or 13%, whatever it is, that doesn't leave very much money after that. So if you are supporting the show through the Patreon website directly, that is awesome. Thank you very much. If you are planning on supporting the show through the iPhone app, I genuinely have no problem with that, but you will be charged 30% more for pretty much the same thing. But the positive news is you won't have ads. All right, let's get to our Tesla news. Tesla can now sell cars directly to consumers in Kentucky, so hooray for that. If you buy a Model S or an X, Tesla is offering a really interesting bundle. And this bundle is only available for Model S and Model X purchases, but I'm sure something similar will work its way down to Model 3 and Model Y if this is successful. So if you choose to bundle the services, you'll get 3 years of full self-driving, 3 years of free supercharging, and 3 years of premium connectivity for $5,000. And initially when I read this, I was like, oh, that's a pretty good deal. And then I was like, wait a minute, maybe it's not. Let's break it down. So the 3 years of full self-driving, it's $100 a month, 36 months, that's $3,600. 3 years of premium connectivity. If you pay by the month, it's $9.99, $9.99, or you can pay $99 a year. That gets you 300 or 360. We're going to use 360. So that brings the total to $3,960, which leaves $1,040 left over for the supercharging. So how many times would someone have to charge for this deal to be advantageous for them? According to Motor Trend, the average cost, they gave a high number and a low number, but the average cost to charge a Model S or Model X is $44. So we divided 1,040 divided by $44, and that comes out to 24 charging sessions to break even. Electrek did the math as well, and according to their math, it's 27. So I feel like we're in that ballpark. So that's not impossible. If you do a lot of road tripping, if you're a salesperson, if you're somebody who lives in an apartment and does a lot of supercharging, this actually might be worth it to you. But if you are charging in your garage and you take 2 trips a year, this might not be the best deal. But still, I love that they're bundling and thinking about this stuff. I think $4,000 would have been the better price. Let's move on to our next story. A few weeks ago, Tesla rolled out FSD version 12.5 to Hardware 4 equipped vehicles. It sounds like FSD version 12.5.1.3 has started rolling out for Hardware 3 vehicles. And it sounds like that started on August 10th. Elon gave the following reason for the delay in the rollout to Hardware 3. It takes a considerable amount of effort to optimize the code enough to run on Hardware 3, Musk said. It also needs to be validated separately. So it's statements like this that are leading people to believe that Hardware 3 is nearing its limits when it comes to FSD functionality, which leads one to wonder, will FSD, full self-driving, level 5 autonomy, ever reach Hardware 3 vehicles? Let me know what you think. Bodie, BODIE, at 918digital.com. All right, next up, we have some Cybertruck news. Elon said at the Q2 2024 earnings call that it was about time to start wrapping up the Cybertruck Foundation series and start offering the more affordable version of the vehicle, which would be a rear-wheel drive Cybertruck and an all-wheel drive Cybertruck, and then they would also sell the Cyberbeast as well. And not long ago, Tesla updated their order page for the Cybertruck, and you could buy the rear-wheel drive version for $60,990. You could buy the all-wheel drive version for $79,990, and you could get the Cyberbeast for $99,990. And previously, the Cyberbeast was like $119,000. But that came with a bunch of stuff for the introductory pricing, and we're not going to talk about that here today. Same with the Foundation. Well, Tesla has reversed course on that. You can no longer order the base rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive version of this vehicle. It's back to the Foundation series for $99,990 and the Cyberbeast for $119,990. This doesn't mean that those base models are being canceled. It just means that at this time, it doesn't make sense for Tesla to do that. I don't 100% know why it doesn't make sense for them to do that, but they were removed. I would anticipate that they're going to come back. We just, we don't know why. Tesla did launch the Cybertruck in Canada, and the headline I read said, "It's pricey." Well, guess what? It's pricey here in the United States too. The Foundation series in Canada is $137,990 Canadian, which is expensive, but if you enter that into an exchange rate calculator for US dollars, it's $100,441. So it's about $500 more than it would be if you were $460 more if you bought it in the United States. That's not all that much. If you want the Cyberbeast version, you're going to spend $165,990 Canadian, which if you calculate the exchange rate is $120,825 US dollars. So it's a little bit more, about I don't know, I'm doing the math off the $935 more, something like that, than the Cyberbeast. So pretty close to price parity. What they were talking about in the headline, because the headline I don't think was a great headline, that it's pricey. What they were talking about is some OEMs are selling the vehicles cheaper in Canada, and Tesla is choosing to go to price parity instead of offering a cheaper vehicle in Canada, which I'm sure Canadians would love for it to be cheaper, but I don't see that as being pricey. If it was like $100,000 more for a Foundation series, then I would say, yeah, that's pricey. Even $20,000 more is pretty pricey, but $500 and $900, it's not that big of a deal. Let's see here. We have two more Cybertruck stories. If you were wanting, or if you were waiting for the Cybertruck range extender, it's not coming until early 2025. But the good news is you can put a $500 deposit down if you really want one. It's going to take up 30% of your bed. It needs to be installed at a Tesla service center. It'll cost a total of $16,000, but it will extend your range from 340 miles to 470 miles if you have the dual motor Cybertruck. And if you have the Cyber Beast, it'll take you from 320 to 440 miles. And I could definitely see in certain circumstances, especially if you're towing, if this would be a good deal. If you're just driving around, your city, I don't think this is worth the money. But if you're towing something long range or even towing for a work vehicle, this makes much more sense. Much more sense. And finally, you can buy a Cybertruck if you live in the United States and receive it about a month after you order it, which has raised some eyebrows for the demand of the Cybertruck because the Cybertruck had 1 million reservations and they've sold conservatively, let's say between 20 and 30,000. Maybe it's a little bit more than that at this point. So where did all those reservation holders go? Obviously, those 1 million reservation holders put down $100, but that doesn't mean because you can put down $100 on a reservation, you can afford to buy a, $120,000 vehicle or $100,000 vehicle. That's still a lot. When Tesla offered up the Cybertruck when they first showed it off, the prices were pretty affordable. And even the most expensive one, I think, was in the $70,000 range. So that's not the case today. So I don't know how many of those reservation holders are still on that list. Currently, I'm not on that list. I actually canceled my Cybertruck reservation yesterday. And the reason why is because I don't think I was holding out hope that a Cybertruck would come down into a price range that I could afford. And I just don't think that's going to end up happening. And I like, could I afford a $60,000 truck? Honestly, maybe. I'm not pretty sure my wife wouldn't be thrilled about that, but we could probably afford a $60,000 truck based on our incomes and stuff. But I don't want to be car poor. Like I don't want to own a vehicle that doesn't allow me to do all the other fun things that I like doing just to own a vehicle. So I made the decision yesterday to just go ahead and cancel my reservation. That doesn't mean that I don't want this truck or I don't think it's super cool because I would love to have one. My family thinks it's an abomination, but I really like the look of the Cybertruck, and I would love the opportunity to own one. But on the other side, I'm not in the habit of giving companies money to hold on to forever in the hopes that someday that price will come down. At this point, we've pretty much gotten through that reservation queue. It seems like if you can buy it and get it in a month. So if it ever does come down to a price that I can afford, I could just easily go and pick one up versus letting Tesla hold on to my $100 and accrue interest on it over the however many years they've had it. So yep. So we canceled our Cybertruck order yesterday. So I was honestly, if I'm going to be honest, it was a little sad. It has been something that I've been thinking about for a little bit, and when I did it, I was a little bummed for about 15 minutes afterwards. So. All right, everybody, let's call that a show. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. For whatever reason, my voice is going out. So sorry about that if I left in some of the clips where it just completely goes out. I tried to get all of them. I tried to re-record as much as I could. But the problem with that is your voice continues to go out when that happens. So I'm not sick or anything. I just think I've been talking a lot on mic lately. So I think that's the reason. Beyond the Post. Please, please, please go and check out my podcast, Beyond the Post. My buddy Rob Dunwin and I do this together. It is honestly I think it's my best show that I do. And for a lot of different reasons. There's a lot of challenges to doing that show. You're working with another person. It's not a single mic podcast. So Rob and I have to be able to find time to record. Fortunately, we're both pretty flexible and committed to doing this. So that's not been that much of an issue. But then you have to learn how to work with somebody. You have to, for me, I do the editing on that show, and I've never done much video editing. I've done a little bit here and there for small projects, but I've never done it at this level. And it has been a huge learning process, but it's been good. I love challenges. So please go check out Beyond the Post. You'll find links in the show notes, and it's all about, creating digital content. So if you are somebody that wants to do short form content like TikTok and Instagram, or if you're somebody who wants to do YouTube channel, or you want to be an author, or we are interviewing people from all different types of disciplines, and I really think it's a good show. So the latest episode is Allison Sheridan. She is on that. This is her part 2 episode. You can go back and listen to part 1 as well. As you all know, Allison is one of my favorite people, and she knows a lot about creating content that is accessible to everyone. And then she knows a lot about community, and that's what Rob and I talked to her about. And it's just, I'm going to stop talking because this isn't supposed to be a commercial for Beyond the Post, but it is truly, I'm truly proud of this project. So please go check it out. And if you only watch one episode, give me your feedback. Let me know what you think. Bodie, BODIE at 918digital.com. All right, everybody, thank you so much. On Friday's episode, we are going to cover Lucid's Q2 2024 earnings call.